All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of art valuation.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a ton of stuff you guys sent in, articles, auction records, even some legal analysis.
Sounds like people are really fascinated.
Yeah, and I think we all want to understand how the art market really works.
Hmm.
And I think the spark for a lot of this curiosity is probably that
Yeah.
banana,
Oh,
right?
well, the banana
The
fruit.
one duct taped to the wall that sold for $6.2 million.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's-
it's enough to make anyone question, the value of art, let alone their sanity.
It's easy to see that price tag and think, like, is this some elaborate joke?
Right.
But I think what's really interesting here is that this piece, nicknamed Comedian,
Mm-hmm.
really reflects some huge shifts that are happening in the art world and even beyond.
Okay, so it's more than just fruit gone viral.
Oh, way more.
Okay.
Comedian is considered conceptual art, where the idea behind the artwork is the most important thing.
Okay, so the actual banana is almost secondary to the message.
Exactly. The artist Maurizio Cattelan, he's known for these satirical and provocative pieces,
Mm-hmm.
often kind of poking fun at wealth consumerism and the art world itself.
Okay.
I remember the buyer, Justin Sun,
Yeah, big crypto guy, right?
huge player in the cryptocurrency world, and he saw Comedian as this perfect symbol of this changing nature of value,
Interesting.
especially with the rise of digital assets and meme culture.
So we've got art, memes, cryptocurrency all colliding in this one banana. I'm starting to see how it's tapping into something much bigger than, just a snack.
It definitely sparked a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Some people hailed it as genius, a perfect satire of the art market, while others just thought it was a ridiculous publicity stunt.
Yeah, I could see both sides.
And that's part of what conceptual art really aims to do.
Okay.
It makes you think, question, and maybe even feel a little uncomfortable.
So it makes you wonder, what does it mean for something to be considered art these days?
Yeah.
And then how do we even assign a dollar value to something like this?
It's the million-dollar question, right? Correct. And it's one that's been around for centuries.
Yeah.
Long before we had duct tape bananas on the scene.
I mean, think about the Mona Lisa.
Exactly.
Probably the most famous artwork in the world.
It is.
Experts say it's worth close to $1 billion?
Yeah, close to $1 billion.
Okay. But that's the Mona Lisa. I mean, it's iconic. I get why it's valuable.
Right.
But how does a seemingly simple portrait from 500 years ago compare to our banana friend?
Yeah.
Where does that kind of value come from?
Well, traditionally, art prices are determined by a whole bunch of factors.
Okay.
Definitely the artist's fame and reputation play a role.
Makes sense.
If a piece is by a well-known artist, especially one who's no longer living,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to command a much higher price.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the rarity and historical significance of the artwork.
Okay.
Is it one of a kind? Does it represent an important moment in art history?
Right.
All these factors add to its value.
So the Mona Lisa ticks those boxes. Da Vinci Renaissance masterpiece, instantly recognizable. It's practically priceless. But what about things like the materials used, the craft of creating the piece?
Yeah,
Does that matter?
totally.
Okay.
Materials, the techniques employed, the overall craftsmanship, those all contribute to an artwork's value.
So you're saying a sculpture made from rare marble would be worth more than one made from plaster?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
The materials themselves impact that perceived value.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's something called provenance.
Provenance. What's that?
Provenance is like a history report for the artwork.
Okay.
Has it been owned by anyone famous? Has it been part of the major museum collection?
Gotcha.
That chain of ownership, that history adds to the story
Interesting.
and can significantly impact its value.
So a painting that once hung in a royal palace might be worth more than the same painting that's been sitting in someone's attic.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, cool.
And then on top of all that, you have this subjective element, cultural trends and tastes.
Okay.
What's considered hot in the art world at any given moment
Mm-hmm.
can influence prices.
So certain art movements or styles become trendy.
Yeah.
And then the artists in those movements, their work goes up in value.
Exactly. Think about how certain art movements or styles become trendy, and the artists associated with those movements, their work skyrockets in value.
It's like fashion, but for art.
Exactly.
What's hot one decade might be out of favor the next.
Absolutely.
And that can have a huge impact on prices.
Huge impact.
So it's a combo of objective factors,
Yeah.
artists, the history, the materials,
Mm-hmm.
and then this subjective layer of taste and trends.
You got it.
It seems like a lot of room for manipulation, especially with something as unconventional as comedian.
Yeah, you're hitting on a really crucial point.
Okay.
The art market, while dazzling and exciting, has a side that's not so glamorous.
Oh.
It's an industry that often lacks standardized pricing, clear regulations,
Mm-hmm.
and that, unfortunately, creates opportunities for some shady practices.
Shady practice? Okay, now you've got my attention. What kind of stuff are we talking about?
We're venturing into the world of art laundering.
Art laundering. So it's like money laundering, but with paintings and sculptures.
You could say that, imagine someone has a pile of dirty money from illegal activities,
Okay.
and they want to make it look clean.
Yeah.
They could buy a piece of art anonymously, maybe even with a suitcase full of cash,
Really?
which, believe it or not, is totally possible in the art world.
Wait, you're telling me I could walk into an art gallery with a suitcase full of cash and buy like a Picasso, no questions asked?
Well, maybe not a Picasso, but you get the idea.
Uh-huh.
The art world, for better or for worse, has a history of discretion, and that can be exploited.
Okay, so back to art laundering. They buy the artwork anonymously, then what?
Well, they might stash it in a free port.
A free port?
These are like super secure warehouses, often located in tax-free zones outside any country's direct jurisdiction.
So it's like a secret art vault where no one's asking questions?
Pretty much.
Wow.
It's a way to store art discreetly, sometimes for years.
Okay.
And because art prices are so subjective, those involved in art laundering can manipulate the system.
How so?
Well, they might create a series of fake transactions,
Okay.
selling the piece back and forth between shell companies or anonymous buyers, gradually inflating the price.
So they're basically creating this fake paper trail to make the dirty money look legit?
Exactly.
Wow.
And when they finally sell the artwork on the open market, that inflated price makes it look like they earned the money legally.
It's a way to clean their dirty money and maybe even make a profit in the process.
Exactly.
This is way more intricate than I imagined.
It is.
It's like something out of a spy thriller.
Yeah.
But how widespread is this art laundering problem?
It's hard to say exactly how much money is being laundered through art,
Right.
but there are definitely signs that it's a significant issue.
Like what?
Remember when Mexico introduced stricter anti-money laundering laws a few years back, targeting the art market?
Yeah.
Sales plummeted by nearly 70% in just 1 year.
Wow, that's a huge drop.
A pretty strong indicator that some shady dealings were happening under the radar. Many experts believe Mexican cartels were heavily involved in using art to clean their money,
Wow.
and these new regulations disrupted their operations.
So this isn't just some theoretical problem. It's happening in the real world, potentially, with, big-time criminal organizations.
Yeah.
This brings us back to the comedian.
Right back to the banana.
Could even that seemingly absurd sale be tied to something like art laundering?
It's a question worth considering.
I mean, is there anything that suggests that?
Well, remember, there are actually 3 editions of Comedian.
Oh, really?
And the one Sun bought has a surprisingly murky ownership history.
Okay.
It bounced between anonymous buyers and multiple galleries before ending up at Art Basel Miami Beach.
Huh.
We don't even know for sure who owned it before it became this viral sensation.
Hold on. You're telling me there are multiple duct tape bananas out there and
Yeah.
we don't even know who owned them before?
That's right.
This is wild.
And while there's no evidence of any wrongdoing in this specific case, this lack of transparency raises serious questions.
It makes you wonder, was the price genuinely driven by, artistic merit and market forces? Or could there be something more going on behind the scenes?
Exactly.
I'm starting to think a $6 million banana is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to, the complexities of the art world.
Yeah, it really is.
There's a whole lot more to uncover, and we've only just scratched the surface.
We've only just scratched the surface.
But I'm feeling like we need to take a break to process all this.
Let's do that.
But we'll be back in a bit to delve even deeper into the forces that shape the value of art,
We'll be right back.
both the legitimate and the potentially illicit. Stay tuned.
We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. I don't know about you, but my brain is still kind of buzzing from all this talk about art laundering and secret art warehouses and, of course, our $6 million banana friend.
It's a lot to take in, for sure.
Yeah,
Art valuation, it's full of these twists and turns.
it's easy to get caught up in the sensational stuff. But let's take a step back for a moment
Okay.
and remind ourselves what we're really talking about here.
Okay, grounding ourselves. What are we talking about? What are the fundamentals of art valuation?
At its core, it's all about trying to assign a monetary value to a piece of art.
Okay.
But as we've already seen, it's way more complicated than just slapping a price tag on a painting and calling it a day.
It's like trying to put a price on creativity, on history, on emotions.
Exactly.
It's not exactly an exact science, is it?
It's not an exact science at all.
Okay.
It's a mix of objective and subjective factors, market forces, historical context, and even a bit of psychology.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so fascinating.
Right. So how do we even begin to, untangle this knot?
Let's revisit our old friend, the Mona Lisa.
Okay.
She's a perfect example of how historical significance and cultural impact can send an artwork's value skyrocketing.
I mean, it's just a painting of a woman smiling, right? What makes it worth nearly $1 billion?
So it's not just a woman smiling. It's Da Vinci. It's the Renaissance. It's this enigmatic smile that has captivated people for over 500 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's become this global icon, reproduced millions of times, inspiring countless interpretations and analyses.
So the Mona Lisa is valuable because it's the Mona Lisa. It's got that built-in fame, that cultural weight that makes it practically priceless.
You got it.
Okay.
But then you have something like Comedian, the banana art.
Right.
While it definitely got people talking, it doesn't carry that same historical weight, that instant recognition.
So its value is tied to something else, something different.
Right. It's playing with ideas of novelty shock value
Okay.
and challenging traditional notions of art itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about the conversation. It sparks the questions it raises about the art world, consumerism,
Yeah.
even the nature of value in a digital age.
And maybe, just maybe, its value is also tied to the potential for manipulation
Potentially.
in a market that often operates in secrecy.
Absolutely. It's a key point to remember.
Okay.
Art valuation is inherently subjective. What one person considers a masterpiece, another might dismiss as utter nonsense.
Yeah, true. So how do we navigate this subjectivity? It seems like it creates a lot of gray areas.
It does, and that's where things can get tricky.
Okay.
That subjectivity opens the door for both genuine enthusiasm and potential exploitation.
Right.
It's a balancing act, and it's why it's so important to understand all the forces at play.
All right, I'm ready to dive deeper. What are some other factors besides fame and historical significance that influence art prices?
Let's talk about the artist's career trajectory.
Okay.
Think of it like a stock market for art.
Okay.
If an artist is up and coming, winning awards, getting their work into prestigious museums, their prices are likely to climb.
So it's not just about who the artist is, but also where they're at in their career, what kind of buzz they're generating.
Exactly. It's all about momentum.
Momentum.
And then you have the artwork itself.
Mm-hmm.
Is it part of a series,
Mm-hmm.
or is it a unique piece?
So a one-of-a-kind sculpture would likely be worth more than a print from a limited edition series.
Right? Scarcity drives up value.
Okay, makes sense.
And then you have the condition of the piece.
Condition, okay.
Has it been well preserved, or has it suffered damage over time?
Right.
Restoration can be a tricky business.
How so?
Sometimes it can enhance value, but other times it can diminish it.
Wow, it's way more nuanced than I realized.
Yes.
It's like a whole ecosystem of factors that feed into this art valuation puzzle.
It absolutely is.
Okay.
And let's not forget about cultural trends and taste.
Right.
What's considered fashionable in the art world is constantly in flux.
So if a particular style or art movement becomes trendy, the artists associated with it will likely see their prices go up.
Exactly. Think about how Impressionism was initially rejected by the art establishment,
Really?
but then became hugely popular, driving up the value of Monet, Renoir, Degas.
Wow. So it really is like fashion, but for art.
It is.
What's hot one decade might be out of favor the next.
Absolutely.
And that can have a huge impact on prices.
Huge impact. And that ties back into the whole idea of subjectivity. There's no one-size-fits-all formula for determining art value.
Right.
It's a mix of these tangible factors, market trends, and good old-fashioned human perception.
This is where my brain starts to hurt a little bit.
I know, it's a lot.
So if it's all so subjective, how can we be sure that the prices we see are legit?
Yeah.
How do we know that we're not just being swept up in hype, or even worse, becoming unwitting participants in something like art laundering?
That's the million-dollar question, literally.
Right.
And it's why it's crucial to be informed, to ask questions, and to approach the art market with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Healthy skepticism. I like that. So what are some red flags that might signal something fishy's going on?
Well, one thing to look out for is a sudden, unexplained surge in an artist's prices.
Okay.
If an artist who's been relatively unknown suddenly sees their work selling for millions,
Yeah.
that might warrant further investigation.
So if I see a duct-taped pineapple selling for $10 million next week, I should be suspicious.
Probably a good idea. Another thing to watch out for is a lack of transparency and ownership.
Okay.
If an artwork has a murky history bouncing between anonymous buyers or shell companies,
Like our banana friend.
exactly. And keep an eye out for inflated prices that seem out of sync with the artist's overall market value.
Gotcha.
If a piece is selling for significantly more than comparable works by the same artist, that's a sign to dig a little deeper.
So it's all about doing your homework, understanding the market, and not being afraid to ask questions.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, especially in the art world.
But let's be honest, not everyone has the time or the expertise to become an art market expert.
Right.
So what can regular folks do to protect themselves?
That's a great point. Luckily, there are resources available to help.
Oh, good.
Reputable auction houses and galleries often have experts who can provide guidance and authentication services.
So if you're considering buying a piece of art, especially a high-IQ one, it's worth consulting with an expert to get a second opinion.
Absolutely, and there are organizations that specialize in art market analysis and due diligence.
Okay.
They can help trace ownership history, assess market trends, and flag any potential red flags.
So even if we're not all, art connoisseurs, we can still be informed buyers and appreciate the art world without getting caught up in any shady business.
Exactly, and remember, art should be something we enjoy that sparks our imagination and makes us think. It shouldn't be a source of stress or anxiety.
Well said. I'm feeling a lot more confident navigating this art valuation landscape now. But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Where do you see the art market heading in the future? What trends are you watching?
That's a great question, and it's one that art experts and collectors around the world are grappling with right now.
Okay.
We're living in a time of rapid change with technology, globalization, new forms of wealth like cryptocurrency,
Yeah.
all impacting the art market in profound ways.
Okay, so buckle up. It sounds like the future of art valuation is going to be a wild ride.
It's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
But we'll have to save that conversation for the next part of our deep dive.
That's it.
Stay tuned as we explore how these emerging trends are shaping the art market and what they might mean for the value of art in the years to come. All right, so we're back for the final part of our art world deep dive.
Yeah.
We've talked about duct-taped bananas,
We have
the Mona Lisa art, history art laundering.
the whole gamut.
Now we're going to shift gears a bit
Okay.
and look at how the legal landscape is evolving to keep up with this crazy market.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, when we're dealing with, millions or even billions of dollars, there's
Yeah.
got to be some rules, right?
Oh, absolutely. And those rules are getting a serious update,
Okay.
especially with the rise of concerns about money laundering and market manipulation.
All right, so let's put on our legal eagle hats and get into it. Where do we even begin?
Well, remember how we talked about art laundering, those secret art warehouses?
Yeah.
Anonymous buyers moving vast sums of money around?
Oh, yeah. It all sounded like something out of a spy thriller. Governments are starting to crack down on that, right?
They are. In recent years, there's been this global push to increase transparency and accountability in the art market.
Okay.
One of the biggest developments is the Anti-Money Laundering Act of 2020,
Okay.
also known as AMLA 2020,
AMLA 2020.
which was passed in the U.S.
Sounds serious. What does it do?
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
This law specifically targets businesses that deal in antiquities and art.
Okay.
They're now required to identify the true owners of these artworks,
Gotcha.
keep detailed records of every transaction, and undergo regular audits to make sure they're complying with the rules.
So no more hiding behind, shell corporations or anonymous accounts.
That's so easy anymore.
Okay.
The goal here is to shine a light on that money trail.
Right.
Make it much harder to move dirty money through the art market undetected.
That makes sense. But is the U.S. the only one taking these steps? What about the rest of the world?
The EU's also stepped up its game with its 2020 anti-money laundering directives.
Okay, so what do those involve?
They're similar in spirit to the U.S. law.
Okay.
Art dealers in the EU now have to perform due diligence on their customers.
Due diligence, so they need to really understand who they're doing business with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Verify identities, background checks, all that good stuff.
Wow. Okay.
They also have to report any transactions exceeding 10,000 euro.
So basically, know who you're dealing with and keep a close eye on any big money moves.
Exactly. And if they're dealing with artworks valued above that threshold, whether they're trading them or even just storing them,
Yeah.
they have to follow even stricter rules
Wow.
about record keeping and reporting.
It sounds like the days of, walking into an art gallery with a suitcase full of cash and walking out with a masterpiece are coming to an end.
Yeah, let's hope so. These new regulations are a huge step towards making the art market more accountable and less susceptible to, those shady practices we talked about earlier.
But enforcing these laws in a global market,
Yeah.
that thrives on discretion and often deals with, incredibly valuable, easily transportable objects.
Right.
I mean, that's got to be a challenge.
You're right. It won't be easy,
Yeah.
but it's a step in the right direction.
Okay.
The more governments cooperate and share information,
Mm-hmm.
the harder it'll be for criminals to exploit the system.
And hopefully these regulations will deter at least some of the bad actors and help create a more level playing field for everyone.
Yeah, that's the hope.
It's a delicate balance for sure.
It is.
We want to prevent illicit activities, but we also want to protect, the privacy of collectors and the overall integrity of the art market.
You got it.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces are constantly changing.
Exactly. And as the art market continues to evolve, with new technologies, new forms of wealth
Yeah.
entering the scene.
Like crypto.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
We can expect even more legal challenges and adaptations in the years to come.
Well, it looks like our deep dive into the art world has reached its final destination.
Yeah, it has.
We've explored a lot.
We have.
From the duct tape banana that sparked this whole conversation
Right.
to the Mona Lisa, this timeless icon. We've
Yeah.
talked about history, culture, economics, even human psychology.
And we've uncovered how the legal landscape is evolving to try to bring order to this complex and fascinating market.
But at the end of the day, the question of value,
Yeah,
it remains a subjective one.
it does.
What speaks to you?
Mm-hmm.
What captures your imagination? What makes you stop and think?
Yeah.
These are the questions that I think really drive our appreciation for art.
Absolutely.
Regardless of price tags or expert opinions.
It's all about your own personal connection.
And as the art world continues to push boundaries, challenge conventions, explore new forms of expression, it's up to each of us to engage critically with the art that we encounter,
Yeah.
to question assumptions, to explore different perspectives, and to form our own interpretations.
I think that's a great takeaway.
So the next time you're standing in front of the work of art, whether it's a centuries-old masterpiece in a museum
Yeah.
or a controversial installation in a gallery, just take a moment to really consider its value.
That's right.
Not just, its monetary value, but its impact on you, on society, on the ever-evolving narrative of art history.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the captivating, complex world of art valuation.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed the journey, and until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep appreciating the power of art in all its forms.